Good night, everyone. We are Group 6, and today we would like to present our project entitled System Modeling and Optimization of Post-Disaster Relief Distribution in Bangladesh. Before we continue, let us introduce our team members. There are Jonathan, Adela, Tarisa, Claudia, Sabrina, and Wafa. This slide shows our project timeline through the Gantt chart. The project started with project planning and case selection, and for the final subsection is the scenario development. Next, and to understand the problem, we use the SCQF framework. With the situation as Bangladesh is highly vulnerable to natural disaster, especially cyclones and floods, and then the complications is damaged roads and bridges reduce accessibility, causing delays in relief distribution. As a result, aid may not reach affected communities on time. And the question is, how can relief goods be distributed in the most cost-effective and efficient way after a major cyclone? To answer this question, we must determine the optimal allocation of transportation resources such as helicopters, trucks, planes, and ships. Next, the slide presents the core problem statement. Next. After a major cyclone, approximately 2 million people require assistance. The estimated aid demand reaches 80,000 tons within 40 days with a target delivery rate of 2,000 tons per day. Several challenges exist, such as including infrastructure failure, high demand, limited accessibility, temperature, and resource constraint, and therefore the main challenge is finding the best way to deliver the right amount of aid at the right time while minimizing the transportation cost. And next, the conceptual background. The objective is to determine a cost-effective and resilient distribution plan. Next, next we define the scope and constraint of our study. Next. The geographical focus is Southern Bangladesh, which is region most affected by cyclones, and the simulation covers 40 days post-disaster, and the model is based on historical cyclone data, infrastructure conditions, and the transportation characters. For the conceptual model, we use a discrete event system. Key events include cargo arrival, loading activities, unloading completion, vehicle departures, queue formation, and final delivery completion. Next. And continue to the checkpoint 3. Next. This slide presents the operational scenario used in the simulation. The cyclone causes severe flooding and damages infrastructure, while Dhaka airports remain operational as the primary entry point for aid. Relief supplies arrive by aircraft and undergo inspection and loading before being distributed inland, and the system operates continuously 24 hours a day with available unloading and check-in staff. This assumption formed the foundation for our simulation and optimization model.
Next, for the scope and output boundaries. So for assignment 1, we focus on the basic unloading and checking process. For assignment 1B introduces higher cargo volume and staff optimization. And for assignment 1C, separates medicine from luxury goods. For each assignments, we evaluate performance indicators such as throughput, utilization, waiting time, queue length, and system stability. Next. Here is the intended flow diagram and the system diagram. Cargo planes arrive, crates are unloaded, checked, and then stored in depots. In assignment 1C, medicine and regular goods follow separate inspection path. Our objective is to evaluate throughput, utilization, queues, and waiting time. Next. This is for assignment 1A modeling components. We created a simple sequential process consisting of unloading, checking, and storage. The checking server is expected to be the most critical stage because every crate must pass through inspection before reaching the depot. Next. The operational findings are the results show that the linear workflow is easy to manage and provides accurate tracking of relief goods. However, the checking server becomes a potential bottleneck due to high utilization. Next. This is for 1B model enhancement. For assignment 1B, we increases the number of crates per plane from 40 to 50 and used triangular distribution for checking time. We also tested different staffing configuration to determine the most efficient resource allocation. Next. This is the optimal configuration. The simulation indicates that checking capacity is highly sensitive to staff levels. The optimal configuration was for unloading staff and for checking staff. This setup maintained utilization around 70%, avoided bottlenecks, and produced statistically reliable results. Next. This is for assignment 1C, medicine separation system. We separated medicine from regular goods. Medicine requires longer inspection and dedicated storage. Therefore, one checker was assigned specifically for medicine, while the remaining staff handled regular goods. Next. This is for the facility model architecture. So after unloading, a separator directs regular goods and medicine into different checking processes. Each path has its own depot, allowing us to measure performance separately and identify bottlenecks more accurately. Next. This is the input configurations. For the simulation inputs, each flight carries 40 regular crates and 10 medicine crates. Regular goods follow an exponential checking time with an average of 3 minutes, while medicine follow a triangular distribution. Next. The result and analysis are the results show that regular goods perform well with stable throughput and manageable queues. However, the medicine pathway became the system bottleneck because one dedicated checker was overloaded. We therefore recommend adding another medicine checker, improving inspection efficiency, or introducing priority queues. Next. Next is the checkpoint 4.
Okay, next. To begin, this slide presents the overall humanitarian relief distribution system in Bangladesh after a cyclone disaster. The system boundaries start from cargo plane arrivals and include packaging, air transportation using the V22 Osprey helicopter, and final truck delivery. And the main entities in the model are food crates, medicine crates, and combined relief bundles with a 4:1 food to medicine ratio. Next. Okay, this slide shows the entity flow within the relief distribution process. Relief supplies arrive at Dhaka Airport, where food and medicine crates are unloaded and combined into bundles using a 4:1 ratio. The bundles are then transported by the Osprey helicopter and routed to three destinations, Tenggel, Chenpur, and Chittagong, with demand proportion of 20, 35, and 45% respectively. After arrival, the bundles are separated and delivered by trucks to hospitals and food distribution centers. Next. This slide presents the resource utilization results over a 5-day simulation period. We can see that the Osprey helicopter has the highest utilization at 98%, indicating that it is the most heavily used resource in the system, and the combiner also operates at high utilization level. Overall, the system delivered more than 4,904 crates and over 1,200 medicine crates while maintaining relatively low average waiting times. Next. Okay, this slide summarizes the main operational challenges and potential bottlenecks in the system. First, supply variability creates uncertainty, especially because medicine arrivals are more variable than food arrivals. Second, the bundling process requires a strict 4:1 food to medicine ratio, meaning a shortage of medicine can delay. Third, last mile delivery is constrained by limited truck capacity and varying travel times. Finally, transportation capacity is limited because only one Osprey helicopter is available. Next. This slide presents the simulation result for scenario 1, which represents the baseline operating conditions. The results show that both food and medicine queues remain near zero throughout the simulation, and then the single Osprey helicopter was able to handle the incoming demand and no major congestion occur. And overall, the system remains stable with sufficient resource capacity to maintain a smooth and continuous relief distribution process. Next. Okay, this slide shows the result of scenario 2, where the incoming supply volume was significantly increased. And under this condition, the single Osprey helicopter became the primary bottleneck in the system. Its transportation capacity was no longer sufficient to keep up with the higher arrival rate. In addition, Chittagong experienced further pressure because it receives the largest share of demand and has highly variable travel time. Overall, scenario 2 demonstrates that the original system becomes unstable when supply volume exceeds X. This slide presents scenario 3, which was designed to address the bottlenecks identified in scenario 2. The main improvement was adding a second Osprey helicopter and increasing delivery capacity for Chittagong. As a result, based on the previous analysis, we proposed a system improvement to address the identified bottlenecks. The main recommendation is to add one additional V22 Osprey helicopter normal condition with low queue levels and smooth distribution performance. And to address this issue, we could recommend adding one additional Osprey helicopter to increase transportation flexibility and capacity. This improvement reduces congestion, improves responsiveness, and restores system stability. Next. That concludes our analysis, and the next checkpoint 5.
Next. This slide explains our objective to analyze Dhaka Airport operation after a cyclone. Since only one runway is available and cargo flights have priority, we want to measure passenger delays and evaluate overall system stability. Next. These frameworks show the relationship between inputs, processes, and outputs. We focus on how runway limitations
and cargo priority affect waiting times, queues, and logistic performance. Next. In scenario 1, we tested the system under normal operating conditions. The runway queue remained very low. Aid supplies were processed smoothly and transportation activities operated without major congestion. The average waiting time was minimal, indicating that the current system can handle normal demand efficiently and remain stable. Next. Recommend activating an additional runway and applying dynamic priority adjustment. This would reduce queues, lower passenger delays, improve cargo processing, and restore system stability. Next. In conclusion, this slide summarizes the findings. Under normal demand, the system remains stable with low queues and smooth cargo processing. However, when arrivals increase significantly, the runway becomes the main bottleneck and the passenger delays accumulate. The key takeaway is that runway capacity and scheduling policies are critical factors for maintaining operational stability. Next. We now move on to the verification and validation stage. Next. Next. This slide represents the verification. It represents real-world humanitarian logistic operation. These steps ensure the reliability of our simulation result. Next. This slide represents the verification process. We check that the runway queue, cargo routing, passenger routing, and distribution flow were implemented correctly. We also verified the queue connections and sync recording. The results confirm that all system components operated according to the conceptual model. Next. Finally, validation showed that the model behaves realistically under normal demand. Queues remained low and operations were stable. When demand increased, congestion appeared, passenger waiting times increased, and the runway becomes the primary bottleneck, adding extra capacity, improved performance as expected. Therefore, we conclude that the model accurately represents post-disaster relief operations and produce valid result. Next. In conclusion, our simulation shows that Dhaka Airport can support post-disaster relief operations actively under normal conditions. However, under high demand, runway capacity becomes the main bottleneck. Increasing runway capacity and improving scheduling policies can significantly reduce delays and improve overall system performance. Next.
Okay. Let's next on. The page of it, the validation about this assignment. So after we do the verification and validation, we can conclude the stability indicator with the queue accumulator behavior with the age of the scan area. Then we get the results of it from the stability indicator that's stable, operationally unstable, and stability restored. That system stability depends strongly on transportation capacity, particularly the availability of Osprey helicopters. Okay, when we see the table, we can conclude that have the parameter change and the effect on systems. We have the key intakes in here about the change in model behavior were consistent with expected real-world logistic dynamics. With the key inside, the model demonstrate high sensitivity to transportation capacity under high demand conditions. Next, this is the realistic behavior. This is the realistic behavior about the model behavior and the key assumption that we use. We usually use the that we can see in here. This is about the higher arrival cause higher congestions, limited transport capacity, increased delay, additional resource, and show the highest delivery results. This is the that we conclude from the key assumption and also the model behavior from the assignment 2. This is also help that the warm-up evaluation about each of the warm-up period that the model is intended for operational insight and decision support rather than exact real-world operation. This is the model limitation. This simplified, limited, because it's still in the modeling, so we can conclude that it's real the limitation of it. This is the next one. We're gonna do kind of verification about assignment 3, about the models, about the model 3. We can conclude that the model logic verification about each of the component and each of the verification that we also already verified that is correct. We also build the simio model of the scanner array that's told us about the normal arrival, double arrival, and improved systems. So the behavior of verification is produce logical operational behavior that this indicate that simio mode is consistent expected humanitarian logistic systems. And verification conclusion, we can conclude that routing and process logic function correctly. Second one is queue and priority mechanism operated as intended. Entity flow match the conceptual conceptual design, and the last one is the system behavior remain logically consistent across all scenario. This is the scenario about the verification about the model tree. So the verification object, we can conclude that's under normal and stress test conditions. This is a conceptual validation of the validation status about the based on the operational behavior status, the result all are valid. This is the validation about the assignment tree about the normal operation, stress test condition, and improve system. So the validation results, we can conclude that we already surpassed the validation itself. Okay, next one, this is the key insights about the verification and validation of the summary. So the model, as you can see, this is key insights about the bottleneck, the system behavior, secondary impact, and network perspective. After that, we can model fallibility, that the model is verified, the model is validated, and statistically reliable, ensured through the multiple replication or confidence interval analysis, because every simul model that we use, we using the stand replication. So that's mean we also make it about the summary of it. So this is the summary of how we make the simul modeling. So this is the last one. This is the final checkpoint about the last assignment that the modeling system gave to us. So this is the problem identification about each of the problem context about the post-disaster relief distribution system after a major cyclone in Bangladesh. So this is the entry. This is the process scope about the transportation allocation to district distribution from Singapore. After that, this is the access of relief goods delivered and affected population. Oh, okay. And this is the entities of each entities like relief goods, beneficiaries, and transportation demand. About each of the resources is a helicopter, planes, large and small truck, and ship.
Alright, for the next one is the transportation services and cost parameters, where each transport mode has a different function and cost. Helicopters provide fast emergency access but are the most expensive, where trucks are the most cost effective for road distributions, while planes and ships handle bulk international supply. This flow starts from Singapore and continues through Dhaka or Chittagong before reaching affected provinces. Next. Alright, so this is a cost calculation and scenario comparison, where we compare two scenarios by calculating total transportation costs over 40 days, where scenario 1 served about 945,000 people at a lower total cost, 958,000, but required higher operating costs. Next. So this is the Gantt chart for the 40-day logistics timeline, where this Gantt chart shows transport activities across the 40-day operation. Helicopters are used during the emergency phase and followed by the trucks for road distributions. Then planes and ships begin international supply later. This timeline helps identify activity gaps and overlaps between transport models. Next. So this is for the simul result scenario 1, where in scenario 1, the system operated smoothly with minimal queues, meaning relief goods were distributed effectively, where all 6 was cost per person served. Next. So this is the scenario results for the scenario 2, where scenario 2 extended helicopter operations to reach isolated provinces with damaged infrastructure. This increased deliveries and the number of people served, but also raised transportation costs. It offers better coverage when accessibility is the main concern. Next. So this is a GIS or map data view, where this map highlights delivery coverage across 6 provinces, where Barizal had the highest coverage, while Barguna has the lowest due to access limitations. Patuakhali and Barguna were identified as helicopter-only areas. These risk levels are shown using color coding. Right, next. So this is the data interpretation, where this is the scenario comparison, where the comparison shows ships contributed the highest throughput while delivery levels varied across provinces. Scenario 2 achieved slightly higher deliveries than Scenario 1, but at a higher cost. Both scenarios serve approximately 950,000 people overall. Next. This is for the code share bridge, where this is the duplication logic. To improve model accuracy, bridge spans with the same GPS location were merged into a single bridge entity. This prevented overcounting road blockages. Bridges were classified by condition, and repairs for critical bridges were modeled from day 6 onward. Okay, next. So these are the tools and data interpretation summary, where the project integrates 4 tools, which is Gantt charts for scheduling, spreadsheet for cost analysis, GIS mapping for accessibility assessment, and bridge duplication logic for accurate road network modeling. Together, these tools provide a comprehensive evaluation of the relief distribution system. Next. AI tools, all of these are used with AI tools such as like technical guidance, language refinement, and interpreting the assignment brief for the model development process, where all assumptions, simulations, analysis, validations, and conclusions were independently completed by the project team. Okay, that's all from us. Thank you so much.